Hello and welcome to the news on NTA International, reaching you live from Abuja. I am Habiba Oladipo. We begin with a look at the headlines. President Buhari tasked Nigerian Economic Summit Group to furnish government with productive proposal for sustainable growth and development of the economy. Key players in global maritime security advocate deeper commitment to deployment of resources towards ending insecurity in the Gulf of Guinea. Thus, United States steps aside for Turkish operations against Kurdish-led forces in Syria. All is now set for the presentation of the 2020 appropriation bill to a joint session of the National Assembly by President Muhammadu Buhari on Tuesday. This followed the conclusion of an extraordinary meeting of the Federal Executive Council on the nation's financial document. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that the meeting, presided over by the President considered and approved the general principle of the appropriations bill. Details of their discussions were not made public. Presidential spokesperson Femi Adesina, however, confirmed to journalists off camera that the council members looked at the entire budget proposal to be presented to the National Assembly for consideration. As at time of filing this report, it is not clear whether the different proposals by the executive and the legislature regarding the actual size of the 2020 budget have been harmonized. The executive had proposed 10.07 trillion naira as the size of the budget, but the lawmakers increased the figure to 10.729 trillion naira while approving the medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper. The Nigerian Economic Summit Group has been tasked to furnish the government with productive, inventive and innovative proposal towards unlocking the nation's potential for sustainable growth and development of the economy. President Muhammadu Buhari, who through the challenge expressed the belief that Nigeria's unique challenges can only be addressed by homegrown solutions. The President was speaking at the opening of the 25th Nigerian Economic Summit in Abuja with the theme Nigeria 2050 Shifting Gears. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has the details.
A significant proportion of Nigeria's prosperity today is concentrated in the hands of a few people.
This, as President Muhammadu Buhari says, means that nearly 150 million Nigerians are in a state of expectancy and hope for better opportunity to thrive, a situation that drives the prevailing migratory and security trends. To address this, the President explains that in the last 4 years, his administration's economic policies focused on the need to not only lift the poor and the disadvantaged, but also encourage inclusivity and collective prosperity.
Nigeria's unique challenges can only be solved by made in Nigeria solutions. As a government, our view is to equip our citizens with the means to seize any opportunities that may arise. This means we continue investments in education, healthcare, infrastructure, security, and strengthen and entrench the rule of law.
This year's summit, which coincides with the 25th anniversary of the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, focuses on what Nigeria would be in the year 2050 when the estimated population of the country will hit 400 million. The President described as pleasing that the group has identified agriculture, manufacturing, ICT, creative and extractive industries as key job-creating sectors of focus.
We very much look forward to our continued collaboration with the private sector in designing and implementing developmental projects that will keep Nigeria on track for sustained, inclusive and prosperity-driven growth. A prosperous society is one where a majority of its citizens have an acceptable standard of living and a decent quality of life.
The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, is optimistic that with comprehensive targeted reforms, tough decisions and radical shift in the current culture, including attitudes towards taxes and public finance, a future where no one is left behind is achievable in Nigeria.
I'm confident that this engagement will be very rewarding and productive. The outcomes, I believe, will set Nigeria on the path of becoming a globally competitive economy consistent with the objective of the ERGP, in which growth is not only competitive but also inclusive and sustainable, and in which we, as the giant of Africa, will lead the way in terms of innovation, industrialization, human capital in the continent and also beyond.
With participants drawn from the public, private and social sectors, politics, civil society, the academia, as well as the international community, the summit seeks to create a unified narrative for setting a long-term national agenda for sustainable development of Nigeria's economy. In Abuja, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
And as President Muhammadu Buhari prepares to present the 2020 appropriation bill before the joint session of the National Assembly on Tuesday, Senate President Ahmed Lawal and Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila are reassuring Nigerians that the era of delaying budget passage is gone. The two presiding officers of the National Assembly stated this while speaking to NTA News after a consultative engagement with President Muhammadu Buhari on the planned budget presentation. During the meeting, they say lawmakers are not only ready to receive the budget, but are also prepared to process and pass it in good time for possible presidential assent before the end of the year.
We believe that there has to be a change for the better. We have to have a cycle that is useful to public and private interests in this country. The implementation of the budget is key. If you start implementing your budget in good time, in January, for example, you would have the whole of the 12 calendar months. And of course, businesses in this country and outside who have interest in Nigeria would prefer to have a budget cycle that coincides with the kind of financial year that they operate.
And we got the confidence of the president that we will have cooperation between the two arms. And I think it's going to be smooth sailing. The budget is a blueprint. That's what it is. It's a blueprint of the economy. And that's exactly what the country is going to get. A very good blueprint. It's a 10 trillion naira budget. And it's a budget that will touch the lives of practically everybody, every segment of the society.
State House correspondent Adamu Sambu reports that the parliamentary leaders also discussed with the president on his recent engagement in South Africa, describing it as a worthwhile undertaking.
And steps he has taken in order to ensure that Nigerians are protected in South Africa and indeed anywhere in the world. Nigeria has provided leadership. Mr. President has done very, very well by taking these measures and steps he did on that issue.
What is to be expected is obviously a more mutually beneficial relationship between the two countries. They look at the bilateral agreements, and I think the South African government, if not the people, is very remorseful. I think like the SP said, the president did, he took the bull by the horn, took leadership, took control, and I believe this is the first time that both countries have sat together in a bilateral fashion on the heels of what happened in terms of the xenophobia incidents. Fashioning out a way forward, concrete terms, concrete agreements were reached, and I believe that that's going to be the last of such xenophobic attacks.
A new relationship that is geared towards unity of purpose among the executive and legislative arm of government is beginning to deepen. The Progressive Governors Forum, during a meeting with the leadership of the National Assembly, described the renewed relationship as inevitable for sustainable national development. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwo reports.
Arrival of members of the Progressive Governors Forum to the conference hall of the President of the Senate for what could best be described as a family meeting. It is part of bridge building across the three arms of government by the group, significant for the Forum's Committee on Legislative Programs, led by former Speaker House of Representatives and Katsina State Governor Bello Masari. The National Assembly has severally indicated its resolve to have a working relationship with the executive, especially the presidency. These state governors want such gesture extended beyond the federal level as they assured the National Assembly of being on the same page with President Muhammadu Buhari.
And to appreciate the leadership of the National Assembly under under both the chairman and the deputy chairman.
One can remember that President Muhammad Buhari constantly reminded us about our responsibilities in providing leadership.
The two presiding officers of the National Assembly, in company of the other principal officers, reassured the governors of their undivided determination to ensure effective service delivery to Nigerians, especially through mutual cooperation.
And we intend to remain very resolute. We intend to remain very loyal to the party and the principles the party stands for. We intend to remain committed and dedicated to Nigerian ideals of making sure that Nigeria provides all the necessary services to citizens.
As in the House of Representatives, we adopted a theme, nation building, a joint task.
This visit is coming less than 24 hours to the presentation of the 2019 budget to the National Assembly by President Muhammadu Buhari, an indication that the federal government is working in synergy with federating units. Meanwhile, the Senate Committee on Communications has screened Adeleke Adewolu as nominee for Executive Commissioner of the Nigerian Communications Commission. The committee will now present its report at plenary for consideration and confirmation. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
And staying with the National Assembly, allegations of non-remittance contributions to Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund by public and private organizations prompted the House of Representatives to carry out an investigation on reasons behind what it calls an anomaly, based on the fact that it provides social security for employees. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports that the House expressed determination to find out the reasons behind the alleged non-compliance by employers of labor.
The Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund, NSITF, is an offshoot of the Employers' Compensation Act signed into law in 2010 to make provisions for compensation to workers in the event of disability, accident, injury, disease or death. Speaker, House of Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila, represented at the investigative hearing by the Majority Leader Alhassan Adodogwo, said the Parliament is set to ensure that the rights of workers are respected and their interests protected.
Failure to comply with the requirement of the law in this matter is an act of sabotage against the interests of the Nigerian worker. And that is not something we can accept as a Parliament.
Let's begin to show more compassion towards the fate of our workers, especially in their weakest moments. We must remember that the whole idea behind NSITF was to ensure that workers were not abandoned during the most vulnerable period of their lives when they could no longer look after themselves or their families.
Government establishments at the hearing furnished the committee with information on challenges on ground concerning remittance of contributions to NSITF.
Public awareness of the scheme has been relatively low, stemming mainly from confusion between the scheme and the pension scheme.
The budget office, and they determine every other allocation that is made. That template has no provision for NSITF. So it's not possible for any agency, or let me speak for myself, it's not possible for NAIT to be able to make provisions for this contribution.
Some private sector establishments brought documents to show evidence of remittance and were directed by the committee to reconcile such claims with the fund. In other developments, the House of Representatives Committee on Commercialization and Privatization, headed by Representative Mohammed Gulu, has held its inaugural sitting and expressed concern over non-performance of some privatized public organizations and vowed to look into the situation for remedy. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
Anti-security matters, developing an effective strategic communication in military and paramilitary engagement to enhance internal security operations is the thrust of a 4-day security course. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa covered the event in Abuja.
Nigeria, just like other developing nations, is currently facing different emerging security threats.
Nigeria has come under increasing security challenges in the last decade.
Collaborating this position, the military, with ongoing internal security operations in virtually all states of the Federation, stressed the need for collective responsibility involving the civil populace, the dominant force in the nation's population.
The Nigerian military, especially the Nigerian army, have contributed enormously in tackling the myriad of our national security challenges. Unfortunately, a large percentage of our population over time continue to arrogate national security concerns to only the military and the other security agencies.
The leadership in National Security Course, organized by the Nigerian Army Resource Center, Abuja, and the Peace Building Development Consult, is aimed at creating enhanced and unified working relation among security agencies and other actors to ensure proactive rather than reactive measures to threat.
The greatest security is that of food. You cannot rally the army to prevent food insecurity if you are lax in preparing ahead for it.
The Nigerian Army Resource Center is determined to provide research-based solutions to defense and security problems. Ismail Musa, NTA News.
This is the news on NTA International, reaching you from Abuja. Do stay tuned for more news after this break.
Hey you! And are you how they talk to? I sabi you now. It's in your mind, Abi. The person with them go help us. Babatoro and Shangalo. Oganekuva, Mr. Sabi. And you don't fit carry last for this one. It's the top we sabi say pikin go crawl before him waka. So don't look, no help anybody. No dolly, no. So go for it. Go for football. Go for Osirio on the Liga Martins live. Go for GoTV Max.
NTA International News. Africa as it is.
And staying with security matters, the air component of Operation Harbin Daji has neutralized no fewer than 10 armed bandits at forests near Buriningwari and Janko Hill in Kaduna State. A statement by the Director, Public Relations and Information, Ibikunle Daramola, says the resumed operations follow the directive of the Operation Harbin Daji headquarters to resume kinetic operations against camps identified as harboring unrepented armed bandits. The decision was taken in the wake of the attack on troops' location at Sunke in Anka local government area of Zamfara State, as well as the increased migration of bandits towards Buriningwari area of Kaduna State. The attack on the armed bandits was undertaken when a Nigerian Air Force helicopter on a reconnaissance mission over the Buriningwari area spotted several bandits at the location and engaged them with their guns, killing some of them. Some of the bandits were similarly attacked to Janko Hills and were equally neutralized. Borno State government has released 137 persons received from Operation Safe Corridor in Gombe to their respective local government council chairmen to unite them with their families. The presentation was performed at the Rehabilitation Center in Maiduguri. Naomi Abuawaku reports.
A meeting of top police officials and that of the boards and management of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission will surely has one major thing to discuss: corruption. And that is exactly what happened at this courtesy visit to the police headquarters by the ICPC. Apart from perfecting strategies for more collaboration, the ICPC wants police support in forensic and deployment of armed personnel to secure their state's offices and workforce.
So if we have a few more special protection unit officers deployed, we can relieve the armed policemen to join our operations, which are on the increase. As the IG may be aware of, we're doing constituency project tracking, we're doing big ticket things that have a multiplier effect on ordinary Nigerians.
The Inspector General of Police, who said both ICPC and the police need each other to remove the perception of corruption as it affects the police, directed the DIGs in charge of operations, criminal investigation, and the AIG intelligence to work closely with the ICPC to achieve their mandates.
Facilities are available for your use at any time. Any support that ICPC needs on the area of forensic should provide them 100%.
The visit ended with both parties appreciating the need for more work to further check corruption. In Abuja, Frank from NTA News.
Apologize for the mix-up. That story was actually the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Commission partnering the Nigerian police on stemming the tide against corruption. And here's the story from Borno State, where the government has released 137 persons back to be united with their families. And moving on, in line with its resolve to totally eliminate blind spots in the nation's airspace, the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency, NAMA, has completed the installation of a VSAT station in the Jos Airport in Plateau State. With the installation completed a week ago, the agency has successfully integrated the VHF radio into the network in that sector. The managing director of NAMA, Captain Fola Akin Kuto-Otu, said the new installation has greatly improved the upper airways radio communications in the northeast sector to the delight of air traffic controllers and pilots alike. He noted that the Jos-Obudu corridors, which had experienced radio blind spots over time, had to be tackled headlong because of the intense traffic in that axis, even as he commended NEMA engineers for addressing the problems with the installation of the new VSAT terminal. Nigeria is leading African countries in the fight against maritime insecurity in the Gulf of Guinea. At the 2019 Global Maritime Security Conference in Abuja, key players advocated deeper global commitment to the deployment of resources towards ending insecurity in the region. Oyinayaka Loka reports.
Rising insecurity in the Gulf of Guinea has been identified as one of the major factors affecting the blue economy. In 2016, statistics from the International Maritime Bureau records about 53 piracy attacks in the region, representing about 28% worldwide attacks. Nigeria being the biggest economy in the region and accounting for about 65% of the cargo generated in the region, witnessed 50 to 80% of major maritime security incidences. In its efforts to safeguard the Gulf of Guinea by providing more security on the maritime, this event serves as a platform for participants from about 78 countries.
I firmly believe that the result of our efforts will foster better cooperation in addressing the challenges of maritime security in the Gulf of Guinea for the overall benefit of member states and the world at large.
Considering the security gains so far, the Nigerian Navy intends to consolidate current collaborative efforts, sustain fleet renewal, and expand its maritime awareness infrastructure.
Presenting President Muhammadu Buhari's message, Minister of State Foreign Affairs, Suberu Dada, said federal government has stepped up efforts in tackling the challenge, which is yielding results.
The IMB Piracy Reporting Center has recently reported, and I quote, a welcome and marked decrease in attacks in the Gulf of Guinea for the second quarter of 2019, particularly commending the Nigerian Navy for actively responding to reported incidents by dispatching patrol boats.
The International Maritime Organization, the African Union, and ECOWAS pledge continuous support in addressing the problem.
The momentum created by this interest has awakened the zeal of the continent to pay more attention to its maritime domain.
The conference is expected to also look at the issue of cybersecurity threats. Oyinayaka Loka, NTA News.
And to foreign news, the United States says it is stepping aside for an imminent Turkish operation against Kurdish-led forces within Syria that have up to now been a key U.S. ally. Report says Kurdish militia played a major role in defeating the Islamic State group, but Turkey regards them as terrorists. The U.S., which has hundreds of troops near the Turkish-Syria border, has reportedly begun to withdraw them. Meanwhile, the main Kurdish-led forces have condemned the pull-out and